calls. I was like, we need to.
And I'm like freezing
That's
all
not,
day.
that's not me. It's not me.
Cold.
I'm
Looking
cold.
at her, she's like,
I'm cold.
and I'm like zipping up and going like this.
You
guys.
Okay, there we go.
That is true.
I'd
That's
like
right.
to call the Mendocino County Office of Education May 2025 regular board meeting to order. Item 1.1, call to order and flag salute. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1.2. We're going to adopt our agenda. Do I have a motion? I vote to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. So move. Item 1.3, public participation. Do we have any?
There is
Okay,
no public participation.
thank you. Moving on to our consent agenda. We're going to adopt that all as one.
Yes.
Um,
Just
Do we have a motion to adopt our consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we moved, or we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. So moved. Item 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 approved. Moving on to item 4.1, consideration of board member remuneration for missed meeting. We've got, we all had a chance to read the bylaw and then our resolution. Nicole, did you want to explain this?
Sure. So as you will recall, last month we were we held our meeting at South Valley in Ukiah. And so the evening prior to our board meeting, Trustee Hutchison sent a text to me stating that she was still at the state science fair. She was hired as a judge, so she had to stay longer than expected. There were 2 Willits students who won awards of note. She sent an email with her board report that was read at the meeting. I read it at the meeting. And she was willing to participate by Zoom, but as you know, we are off-site. We have not put on Zoom, and so that wasn't an option for her. So that's the information that I have for you.
Okay, so what we need to do is discuss whether our applicable boxes have been checked, performance of designated duties for the county board during the time of the meeting, illness or jury duty, hardship deemed acceptable by the board. That is our job before us, board. Do we have any discussion on this? I know everybody's tired.
I feel like I was operating under the duties of the board. I mean, I was a parent of a student that was going down there. I'm not gonna lie, my child was one of the 10 that attended. As I was there, I was planning on interviewing the 10 students that had attended the state fair from Mendocino County as part of my radio show and general communication to the public. When I was getting my press pass, they were obviously low on judges. They asked if I would judge. I agreed to. It did require that I stay longer because I had to be part of the ceremony, which I hadn't planned on staying for. And so that is why I didn't make it back to be part of the meeting the next day.
Right, I understand that. That's, so but you didn't go on board for official board business. If it was official board business, then we'd be remunerating you for that trip too. That's my thing about if we.
Right,
if we
I
make
thought it should, to be honest.
It's done, Michelle.
Oops.
If we approve that it was board business, then we're approving a trip too. That's my thing with it. We say, if we agree it's board, that's my only caveat. If we say it was board business, then all of the board would have been invited to the science fair and getting the trip.
I'm not asking for money.
I know,
for the trip, so.
I know.
Well, then maybe it's hardship. It was a hardship as a parent. I had to support my child. And I think that's acceptable. So it's what you all choose to do with it. I'm one vote. I would support any of you in that situation.
I have a couple of questions. For you, Michelle, was it a paid position that you filled as being a judge?
100% volunteer.
And then a question for Nicole. I was looking at our board policy, and it referred to, let me see if I can pull it up. Ed Code 1090, 1096 for stipends and expenses. And it mentioned working for or representing the Board of Education, but it doesn't really give examples. Is there some sort of a checklist of, like, how do we really prove that we are representing our board?
So that would be something where the board selects, like, hey, we'd like to send a board member to go attend this or to be part of this meeting or something like that. It would be something that the board discusses and then either takes action on or gives kind of like a general discussion about, or but usually it would be by taking action to appoint someone to represent you on a board or a committee or something like that.
Okay.
Or going on seminars or.
Seminars is different, they're not necessarily representing, but it is still board business, so that's certainly true. So if there was say a CSBA conference that conflicted with a board meeting, I think arguably that would be board business.
I kind of feel like there's sort of a general good that comes out of board members being out there and participating in student activities. They should be encouraged. That's my feeling.
I have a clarifying question. Thank you for your question, Nancy. When that's done, is it usually done ahead of time? And that's something that the board agrees that that's something that we'll do in the board, and then the invitation to all board members?
I think a board appointment to a committee would certainly be done ahead of time. I think a board member attending a training, that is also done ahead of time. You don't, the decision to attend something, you might not have learned about it with much advance notice, but the notification of attending something like that is usually, we have always known when a board member is going to a training. They tell us I'm going to attend a training, and there's nothing written down that says that they have to. Usually, if there's a registration fee, we're obviously involved because they're not expected to pay for that, and then our staff will sign them up. So it's never really, I can't think of an occasion where it comes up that we're after the fact dealing with an absence per se for something like that. I can't think of a time it's come up.
So if it's not within the performance designated duty of the board, it still, I think, falls under hardship in the fact that I was operating as a parent, bringing my child to the state science fair.
I have a question about that, Michelle. Was there, you knew you were going to attend the event ahead of time? First of all, I agree with you, Dawn, that these things are beneficial to represent. But if we were going to designate hardship, was that, what was the hardship? I'm getting very complicated question.
It's travel to be able to return in time to make the meeting. The fair was on Sunday. Our county board meeting was at 10 o'clock on Monday. So I didn't have the ability to attend the full fair and be able to be back here on time without driving all night long and not sleeping.
Was there the opportunity to plan ahead for that in terms of notifying our board that you wouldn't be present?
Well, yes, and yes, I did notify our board as soon as I realized I couldn't be present. I notified the superintendent.
Is that because you're asked to do the extra judging? Is that what changed? Otherwise you would have been back?
Yes, although had my child placed, I wouldn't have been able to make the board meeting either. So we were playing it by ear, because I really was trying to make the meeting. So there would have been a hardship too, had he placed, I would have had to stay for the award ceremony for that too. He didn't place, but I had the obligation to stay because I had agreed to judge.
For the judging purpose.
So how do we proceed? Either we.
So someone will present us a motion for approving the hardship deemed acceptable by the county board, or not a motion. And if we don't have a motion, then it doesn't.
I think the motion would be to pass resolution 25.5.1, identifying whichever one of the reasons that the person making the motion wants to put forward.
Am I allowed to make a motion?
Yes.
We learned if I make the motion, then I have to hand the gavel over to Dawn, so I'm not making a motion. I'll let someone else do that for you.
Well, I'll make a motion that we at least take a vote on approving remuneration.
And can you identify the reason? Because we'll have to identify that in the resolution.
My reason would be that it's legitimate representation of our board and business of our board to go to the student activities.
But it's not on here. You have to pick one of the three. The hardship one is what she's.
I think so. Performance of designation. I think the first one is probably the one that you're identifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Performance of designated duties during the time of the meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the resolution 25.5.1 for the first reason, performance of designated duties for the county board during the time of the meeting. Do we have a second? I'll second it. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3 ayes.
Yolanda, or you were able to get the eyes on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion passes.
But you also have to. I would recommend that you ask
Roll
for
call
the
vote?
nays, as well, so the nays, because it would be
Should we
those
just
that
do a
didn't
roll call?
vote. Sure. It's
Roll
either
call
aye, nay, or abstain.
Nancy?
No.
Michelle?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Priscilla?
No.
Marilyn? Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Alrighty. Moving on to item 4.2, board to consider becoming members of the Association of California County Board of Education, ACCBE. I'm sure we've all had time to read about this. And the president is very dynamic. I met her in Anaheim, Bina Lukovitz. Does anyone have any strong opinions on this?
I move that we join.
Second.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I assume there's more dues to pay on this. How much are they?
$1,375 annually for the entire board. It's not per board member. It's for the
Yeah.
board as a body.
And then I sort of wondered, what do they offer other than the organization we're already a member of? You know, we're gonna pay that money, we should get something extra for it. You know?
We sent some resources, what I beyond reviewing the resources that were sent, I believe that it's really important for our board to diversify our resources in terms of what's available to us to develop, one, our individual leadership as board members, and then two, resources as a board constituency. What I got from the materials that I've reviewed on is that this body is interested in developing specifically county boards of education, or providing resources, I shouldn't say developing, but providing resources for county boards of education. CSBA, I apologize, I always get that wrong. I'll get it right eventually.
We know who you mean.
Is that they provide resources, which is great to a host of different types of boards.
Yeah.
County boards being one. I also believe that the perspectives that ACCBE brings is really unique, only dealing with county boards of education. I started to inquire about what that looks like. I'll share more in my board report, but I believe that they can help diversify those resources for our board. And also, they had some advocacy opportunities as well.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, I remember Larry dug deep into this too. Don't they offer a little legal representation?
No, that
or,
is
or advice?
Not yet. They may at some point, but
Yeah.
that's one thing that's in particular we asked about. They do not do that. I think that they would like to at some point.
Yeah, if I can add, I look at CSBA as support of our school districts. I see that sort of as like the House of Representatives. Problem, one of some of the issues with CSBA from a rural schools perspective is that if you bring a perspective up that might make the non-rural part of the state a little upset, you gotta dance that delicately because you need their votes to get anything forward. Whereas when you look at county board representative across the state, it's really equivalent to a Senate. Because every single county has 5 to 7 board members that are represented. And so it's not just the popular parts or the population area of the state that gets the majority of the people. It's equitable, it's equal across our state. And so it really, I think it's a really important advocacy effort for rural schools to have a county board association that's specific for us, because we hold a different level of power across the state if given it. When we're part of CSBA, we're like another region, and we're down here at the bottom of the regions and kind of like this Payne County Board get us off, like, it's not really part of the organization. Whereas, so I think it's pretty important that we support it personally.
Another good reason, thank you.
And we can always back out and not join it. It's not something we're committing to
Right,
year after year.
yeah.
If we find we don't benefit from it. I think anything where we can network and have advocacy for board members is good. I'm not sure about their events. I should know more, but it was about a year ago when I sat with her. She came and sat and had a breakfast with me at the Anaheim convention. Introduced herself, and she's in my phone. She sent me. She's very, very pushy. She'll be really happy that we're talking about it today. So do we have any more questions or comments? And we have a first and a second. So all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. We are joining. Thank you, everybody. That was a tough one when we've had so much thought all day, so much deep thought. Item 4.3, our school plan for student achievement.
Nicole, can you describe a little bit of why this is coming back?
Yes, so this is, you've seen before. Last year we were under federal program monitoring, and with that there's pieces that they look over for our school plan for student achievement, as well as the composition of the school site council. and they had some findings that we had to go back and fix. So in Oak Creek, in our community schools, with the population of students we have there, families come in and out a lot. So it's very hard to maintain a school site council that has the proper ratio of parents and community members to staff. And so we had to go through a process of getting that aligned and then have them vote on their school site plan. So we have now met all the requirements for federal program monitoring and all those pieces. And the final piece is just to bring the SIPSA back for your approval. So it's just aligning all the pieces and making sure that we're ready to go forward.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Dr. Nicole before we entertain a motion?
What were the key pieces that we were in compliance with that we have met now?
Sure. One of the pieces was really that we had the right ratio of parents and community members to staff. One of the problems usually with school site councils is you have more staff and teachers willing than you have parents. And with our staffing that's coming in and out, our parents coming in and out, they have to be willing to come to the meetings as well as to maintain. And we had a couple hurdles this year. Unfortunately, we had a parent pass away that was on the board that changed it. Then we had to redo it again. We had to have all the paperwork in place. And that was one of the major hurdles. Chris Francis can talk about maybe some of the others as well.
I can. So we worked pretty hard on getting the plan back together. We actually did a really good job of getting council members. And we have, so part of the findings that we had for the SPSA were that the school site council representation, that was one. The ballots from which they needed to be used to get participation. 3, the budgeting numbers into the plan. 4, the communication and discussion of the metrics and the data that we're using to measure whether or not our actions are being effective or not, and then having that input from the board in order to be able to do it. So, we went through a couple of different iterations with it. We worked pretty closely with the California Department of Ed. The composition of our board, our school site council, shifted several times throughout the year, but we were able to field a president, a vice president, and a secretary, which we're very happy about. And just, we have about 17 students in total, so 3 guardian or community members is a big percentage of the total population. But we were able to make our practice better. So we generated some really good agendas. We put some protocols and procedures in place to reach out and communicate with people. And it was a hard process, but overall, I feel really good about it. And those are some of the areas that we had to address specifically.
Thank you. Any more questions? All right, so we need to reapprove this since we made changes. Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
5.2 carries. Moving on to item 6.1 with our school student representative, Anna. Hi.
Well, I was gonna say good morning, but not good morning. I don't know. I guess our general updates, we just had like CPR training, so I think the good majority of the kids got CPR certified. And we went up to the college the other day to get plants, and we're making a garden, or we're growing a garden to enter in the salsa contest. What else? About like groups and activities that we have at school. I mean, we have like CCR groups with Keenan and SEL with Amanda and substance group with Amanda. And on Fridays we have like a arts and crafts a free period at the end of the day. We just get to relax. So kids, we have dojo, which is Aikido. Kids go and do Aikido, or they can do yoga or mindfulness on Wednesdays. And we have art also on Wednesdays with Lonnie, who also goes into other schools and teaches art, which the kids really enjoy that. But I don't know. That's all I want to say.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Can you bring some of your salsa after it's grown?
Yeah.
There's nothing better than fresh salsa.
Yeah, we will.
Did you guys get the onions and garlic as well, or just tomatoes and
Well,
peppers?
Right now it's not the time to grow onions, which is already passed, but I think Miss Kay got some onions, but we have cilantro, serrano peppers. I think we got like two tomato plants. We got some flowers in there, strawberries. What else? But yeah, that's most of it.
Nice. So the cilantro, mine's already starting to try and go to seed. So
Oh,
I have to
really?
keep clipping it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because by the time the tomatoes are ready, the cilantro's
Yeah.
keeled over. Yeah. I end up having to buy cilantro, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, good for you guys. That's great. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to item 6.2.
5.2, I think.
I'm sorry, am I on? Oh. Oh, I jumped to 6.
Yeah, but it's the right report, just the wrong number to it.
Okay. Well, I didn't do 5.1.
She skipped in.
I skipped 5 altogether. All right.
That's what I was.
I'm
My
skipping
my
right-
5.1 says student representative report.
Oh.
Oh, interesting, mine doesn't.
My
public
5.1
one
is the news release. MCOE launches free CNA program to
That's what I
extend local
have.
medical
I'm-
career pathways, which is
mine's the
really
same as
exciting.
yours.
Okay.
Yours is, okay.
We'll look
And
into
I-
it.
The oddballs, it's never happened to us before.
So did anyone have any comments about our CNA program, besides it's very exciting?
If you know instructors, we're still looking for an instructor.
All right. If there's no comments, I'm going to move on to item 5.2, presentation of the annual state preschool program self-evaluation, the PSE, with Kristen Hill. Why is it different from the posted agenda?
I don't know.
You got a different agenda
It's
too?
just the same as mine.
Yeah, the publicly posted agenda is different than what's printed.
Very strange thing.
Okay, well, hello, and I came to see you guys about this time last year for the same reason, but I have some different things to tell you this year. My name's Kristen Hills, I'm the director of the Early Education and Care Department here at MCOE. And one of the biggest pieces of our department is that we have a consortium of 17 state preschools all throughout the county. Every year, we need to complete the annual self-evaluation, and we like to present our findings to the board and also to staff. It doesn't need to be approved, but it's just part of the cycle of continuous improvement that we always try to continue with in ed services. So, and here you will see a visual representation of that process. It's just like we follow with teaching and everything else. We gather data, we analyze it, we model a plan, and then we take action to address any shortcomings. The program self-evaluation is due in June every year. It has 24 areas that are measured, and it's quite extensive. It's actually the same tool that they would use if they come out to do a review from CDE, and they ask us to perform that annually on our own contract, and so we do. And next slide, thank you. These are the different areas, so they're sort of grouped together. We have one section on family files, another section on family engagement and strengthening, one on program quality, one on administrative, and one on fiscal and audit. So I'll go into each of those in a little more detail here for you and talk about what changes are coming for next year. So this was our first year of centralized enrollment, which was wonderful. They used to enroll at each school site, and now we do all of the enrollment here out of our office. We have found that teachers have more time for planning activities and meeting with families and doing the work that teachers should be doing instead of chasing after state paperwork, so we have someone for that. We also have better access to data now because all of the family files are with us and they're all in one system, which is great, and all digitalized as well. We also added a multilingual family liaison, which improved access for Spanish-speaking families. So in the beginning of the year, we had, when Spanish-speaking families reached out, we needed to find a translator, and now we have someone in-house, and they can just call and talk to somebody like anybody else, which is how it should be. So really happy to add Jose to our team. And he's also providing in-house translation of our forms into Spanish, which again, we could do before and send it out and pay for a service, but now we have somebody who you could ask him and it's back to you the same day. It's lovely. Next year, we're very excited to be adding full day services at Talmadge. And when I say full day, I mean full day. We're gonna be offering 7:30 to 5:30 for preschool here at Talmadge. There is another component. Families have to demonstrate need in addition to being eligible. So they have to either be working, looking for a job, in school, or attending training, or be incapacitated in some way. There are fees possible for the very highest income families, but they're very small. And the maximum a family would pay is $80 a month. And that only applies to families that would be at the state median income or at median. 100% of that or higher. So really very few families wind up paying fees. And our billing system is also included in the enrollment database that we have called Hub. So everything is good there in family files. Family engagement, again, adding our multilingual family liaison was a great move. We've had more cross collaboration in the last year, I feel like, within MCOE. Part of that is due to the P3 initiative that is asking us to collaborate more with Ed Services. And also we have the Arts Family Engagement grants that we did. We, Prop 28 provided money to schools for visual performing arts, and we built a family engagement component into that. And so our sites could apply for those funds and get up to $3,500 to do like a family engagement event around visual performing arts. So that has been great. And then next year, again, we really think we're responding to families with the full day services to accommodate working families. And hoping that it will be a model for all of our subcontracting sites if they're interested in offering full day services at their sites as well. The way our consortium works for our new board members, we are the lead educational agency for all of the 17 sites, but we subcontract with school districts, with the charter school, and with the community-based organization in Fort Bragg. They provide the facilities and they employ the staff, but all of the program requirements fall under MCOE. So we provide the training, all the site leads come to us once a month. Anyway, just to give you a little background. We're also collaborating a lot more with First Five, which is exciting as they become also, in addition to being a family resource center, they're now a family empowerment center, which supports families who have children with IFSPs and IEPs. And we're going to be doing some Spark training with our department staff, which is a DEI company who has been doing some work with MCOE. We're very excited to dive deeper into that in our department. Next slide, please. So program quality. This is the real meat of the review here. This has all of our assessments that we do for children, assessments on the program, a lot of the supports that we provide for professional development, some changes. This year, we moved away, and this was the state, not us, from ECHRS, which you may have heard of. It's early childhood environmental rating scale, and they changed it to CLASS. So CLASS is a rating system by Vanderbilt, and it's really focused more on teacher-child interactions instead of materials in your classroom. So it's really in those little teaching moments that you have somebody there for 3 hours and they are assessing that, rather than a checklist of things. Do you have this in your classroom? Do you have that in your classroom? And so part of responding to that is adoption of teaching pyramid, which is a social emotional framework that addresses behaviors that challenge adults. We have adopted that as sort of a formal framework. Most of our sites have been through it. We're doing a cohort next year for our sites out there. And we also are contracting with an early childhood mental health consultant. So we have a whole suite of procedures and policies for students who need additional support, but that was another sort of last resort option for us to use, somebody outside of our support system in our department, outside of asking SELPA, outside of asking district staff. She comes in from outside, she's willing to meet with families, and it's been really helpful for some of those kids with who've been having a really hard time. Next year, we are making some changes to improve quality. Now that we're serving mostly 3-year-olds with the advent of TK, we are changing our class sizes. So right now we have a max of 24. We're going to reduce that to 16. Our ratio is required still to be 1:8, but because we're serving more 3-year-olds, we're going to adopt internally a 1:6 adult-child ratio to have more adults in the room with children. So we'll have 3 staff with 16 instead of 3 staff with 24. I mentioned teaching pyramid already. Exciting that Ukiah Unified, we're going to be offering that to all of their TK classrooms as well to work towards alignment for P3. And we're going to offer a new event in October that will be countywide and will focus on staff wellness, because they could use some, we could all use some more of that. This was the only area where we had a finding last year, was an inventory. We needed to tighten up our processes with keeping track of inventory for our subcontractors, mostly because the requirements for state preschool are different than for county offices and school districts. Of course, we have to track every item in the classroom that is over $100 and will be staying in the classroom. So each chair, for instance, each table. So we came up with systems, and those have been working. We also purchased playground equipment for 3 subcontractors. That's in process right now: Laytonville, Potter Valley, and Chanel Valley. And now we have written policies for behavioral concerns and also for suspension and expulsion. Next year, we may be adding a preschool coordinator position. Depends on funding. We may not. That changes day to day at this point. You'll see Wednesday when the budget May revise comes out. That'll just be the start of it. And we're also going to have some written policies for toilet loading support, because that's been a hot topic, as you may have heard from other sources. So as more young children go to TK, right, we hear more about these policies. And lastly, the biggest change coming next year is that we've had a hold harmless since COVID went into effect. That means that we are given a contract, and usually we have to earn it based on attendance and enrollment. We have enjoyed the hold harmless, which basically says if you spend your contract, you get your contract. And so we've not have to worry so much about attendance or enrollment. First it was COVID, and then it was the rollout of TK. We'll be at full rollout of TK transitional kindergarten in the fall. And so we're looking at the end of that policy. We're very fortunate in that we actually have a lot. We're not going to have any trouble earning our contract, but a lot of places around the state may struggle with that. The reason we won't is because of a changing to funding formula that happened during COVID but hasn't been implemented yet. So the state is going to provide more money for children who are 3, which is most of our children, who have an IFSP or an IEP, dual language learners here at Talmadge. And so we are actually able to increase the rate to all of our subcontractors from $33.19 per child per day to $43 per child per day. So that will help offset the smaller class sizes and the tighter ratio. So everybody keeps their jobs and kids get better care. So that worked out really well for us. And even with fewer children, because more are going to TK, I think we're going to be just where we should be next year. we are required to serve 5% of our children with IFSPs and IEPs. We have 25%, no problem there. We have a lot of children. We serve children with disabilities at all of our centers. And there is rate reform underway. It's been a multi-year process. The last 2 years have been the latest iteration of that process. We're not expecting to see that rate reform actually happen until 26, 27, would be my guess. So, but that'll give you an idea about the funding changes and excited. That's it. So that's an overview. Any questions about, say, preschool or early education?
Could you define the IFSP and IEP just?
Of
those
course,
documents?
individualized family service plan, so that's for children 0 to 36 months. And IEP, individualized education plan, thank you. Those, we love to throw around those acronyms.
The IEP typically follows a child throughout their school career, correct?
Sometimes, I mean, early intervention, I think sometimes like a child might come to us with a speech delay, for instance, and then they get services and they sort of catch up in development, and so they might be exited from their IEP.
Okay.
It just depends on the child and their
So
needs.
probably same for the other
For the
acronym.
IFSP is really different. So we actually are partners in our early start program with the regional center, and it's run through our special education department here and the regional center. And that's a family services plan because it's not related to school. It's really more to support parents who have really young children with developmental delays or another reason they might have an IFSP. So, and then they exit that at 36 months because that's the end of the period you can have an IFSP. And then it gets turned over to the school of residence, and then it becomes an IEP if the disability, because sometimes a child could have a disability that isn't going to affect their ability to access education, right? So they wouldn't have an IEP, and so it just depends.
That could be,
It's really different, yeah, for
Okay.
each child.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kristen? Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I know you guys had a long day, so appreciate getting that.
We will skip over and won't make Brianna do her presentation again. We'll go to item 6.2, our Williams Quarterly Complaint Report for 24 and 25.
And there are 0 Williams complaints received.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that? Moving on to item 6.3, MCOE school programs and student enrollment reports. You'll have a chance to read that. Any questions on that? Okay, we'll move on to item 6.4, MCOE HR personnel report. That was short and sweet. And moving on to item 6.5, Ed Services Report with Dr. Nicole Liddell.
I just want to point out that student promotion graduation awards will take place on Monday, June 2nd at our MCOE school programs.
And we'll send out a follow-up email because those are our graduations, and we would invite you to attend to be part of that.
And that's Monday.
What's the date again?
June 2nd.
In the evening?
Chris?
Do you know what time that is?
Yeah,
Evening?
3 to 5. I think we're ballparking that one. And then that'll either be, we're checking to see the availability for this room.
I believe it may be in the room, here in the room.
Yeah.
So we'll
Or-
give you the details.
Yeah, or it'll be at 518 Lookout.
Keep us posted. Okay, moving on to item 6.6, Business and Administrative Services Report with Heather Grantala.
We really don't have a whole lot to highlight this month. We're really just kind of gearing up for year-end closing up the books, assisting districts and charters with theirs. We're developing next year's budget and also helping districts and charters with theirs. And then for our technology team and our maintenance and operations team, it's when we get really, really busy because we're out, with school being out, it's our opportunity to go out and do a lot of that work. So we're just kind of gearing up for it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Heather? We will move on to item 6.7, our superintendent's report.
Yes, so May is super busy in schools, and there's certainly a lot of events to attend. So I've been out and about. It's been a pleasure to see a lot of the good work going on in our school district. school districts. So some of the events that have gone on, I'm not gonna hit them all because there's a lot, but just to highlight some of the great work happening in our schools. We've had, I think, at least 3 of our school districts, if not more, that held Dia del Niño or Day of the Child events. There was a Native Roots event at Pomlita Middle School. That was the first I've seen anything like that, and I think Priscilla was contributed to that happening, where there were various tables demonstrating traditional works of Native people in our area. There were people from San Diego, UC San Diego, I think, that came up to demonstrate different Native games, and I mean, it was just a really cool event. Also, there was a community transition program that UUSD and Willits students participated in. The community transition program is for adults it's a special ed program for young adults, and there was the 3rd annual day of the provider, and they honor and recognize various providers in the community, and it was started really to help make sure that students were introduced to law enforcement and emergency services and other services in a positive light prior to having a negative experience, and also for those providers to meet those adults and recognize that there are cognitive differences that really need to be considered in interactions. And so it was really great, very well attended. I had an opportunity to present to some the students, the inland students participating in the construction corps. That was last week, and then this week I'll be presenting to the coastal cohort. Those students are all seniors with an interest in pursuing a career in building trades, and they have one night a week where they come together in a classroom setting and hear a presentation. So I was one of the presenters talking about how to apply for a job, interviewing, building resumes, things like that. And then they come on Saturdays and do a hands-on. It's an all-day event. So anyway, that was fantastic, and I look forward to the next presentation on that. Also, the Healthcare Education and Workforce Summit that was held at Coyote Valley, put on by the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay. Healthcare providers and educators who provide some sort of support and education in the field of healthcare were there. A really good collection of people coming together and talking about different challenges and ways to address those challenges when it comes to building a workforce, a healthcare workforce. That was very well done. And then Friday, we had our kickoff, our launch for the Schools Rule initiative, which is, there's information in the back if anybody wants it, but we had our first major donor, Sonoma Clean Power, contributed $20,000. And so we wanted to recognize that and do a celebration and a launch, hoping to get more contributors. And that fundraising, the recipients of that are all the students in public schools in Mendocino County. The way that would work is that annually money would be distributed based on enrollment in our various public schools, and the fundraising is not intended to compete with any of the local level fundraising, but rather to reach people like Sonoma Clean Power who are not necessarily tied to a particular school but want to contribute to all schools. So we are excited to see where that will go, and really proud of the work that many of the MCOE staff to get that up and running. Contributions can be made online, and it's pretty great.
So what is the funding used for? Is it anything?
Pretty much anything, as long as it is in compliance with all laws and codes regarding to school spending. Yeah, so that is the end of my report.
Schools rule.
Schools rule.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 6.8 with board member reports. We'll start with Nancy and just go on down the line.
Okay. I was able to run over and enjoy the kickoff schools rule. It was really interesting. Great seeing Sonoma Clean Power give the $20,000 check, very generous.
Mhm.
And then listening to the superintendents who gave reports on, like, you know, what are their barriers for fundraising and what are they fundraising for? So that was really interesting to hear.
What were some takeaways?
Some takeaway?
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of it, you know, I as being part of parent clubs in my past, a lot of it are, you know, enrichment things. Travel is very expensive. So to try to get these kids out, you know, whether they're on a sporting event or some sort of school event, a lot of these kids really don't get outside of their community. So for them, it's, you know, it's a great opportunity to get the kids out. How many kids have not passed, you know, the Golden Gate Bridge? So that was a big one for, I think, every single district had mentioned transportation costs was an issue. So that'll be wonderful. And then I look forward to seeing, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of social media that will go out that we can help share to try to get a lot more visibility to the fundraising. Yesterday I went to the Headlands Coffee House, and middle school 8th grade art program has all of their artwork up on display and for sale. So I treated myself to a piece of artwork for Mother's Day, and they did a great job. There's some really, really cool creative pieces. So if you're near Headlands Coffee House in Fort Bragg, please stop by and check it out.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nancy. Michelle?
Well, last week I was able to attend the Fort Bragg Walk and Roll to School Day that the district held for the 2 elementary schools. It's always fun to be able to visit Fort Bragg Unified. It is just a great, I know it's in your area, not mine, but it's just such a great district. And to see the littles walking and biking and scootering and being super excited to just, you know, move before school and with their parents. It was just a really fun day. So it's super exciting to see that happen. I also attended the Willits Under 20 art show that's open at the Art Center. I'm not sure if it's still open. It might still actually be up. Excellent art show. Highly recommend that one. And then I will be attending Blosser Lane's open house tomorrow night. And then I wanted to just talk a little bit about my experience at the State Science Fair. You know, being a judge there was really eye-opening because I got to meet the board that supports State Science Fair. And what I learned is that State Science Fair can send up to 10 students to the International Science and Engineering Fair that happening in Ohio this year. But they only could afford to send 2 this year. So out of our entire state, coming out of State Science Fair, were 2 students that got to go to ISEF. What I also learned is that large county offices of education, like Riverside and San Bernardino, they get to send their students directly to ISEF, completely skipping the state board process altogether. Our smaller county offices don't have that opportunity. We have to go through the state process to get to ISEF. So for those brilliant children that grow up in rural, smaller county office of ed, there is a super barrier there because they have to go through that state process. And if the state can only send 2, I'm gonna tell you, they're sending kids from Riverside and San Bernardino because those kids have endowments with universities and their type projects. We can't even come close to comparing. So I just really wanna pass the baton, or I guess work as a collaborative team to really work with the State Science Fair Board to, 1, try to move the State Science Fair out of only being in LA to moving around to other major cities in the state so it's more accessible to our students. And 2, make sure they have the funding to send their 10. And then to work collaboratively to send our 10. Because each one of our 10 students didn't know each other. They didn't know who else was going. Whereas Humboldt County, those kids went as a group. They sent 8. each student's family got $1,400 to help them offset the costs to send one adult and the student. They had, one of the county offices members was there. They brought all the boards down, so no one had to worry about how to get the boards to LA. There was just a lot of, and what I saw was that group of Humboldt students were all moving together. And they were, yet they didn't know each other prior to the fair. So it was an opportunity for those science interested students to know and meet one another and to have an common experience that they'll get to remember. Whereas our students didn't, even though they were all there together, they had no common experience. And it would have just been a better. So I guess I'm passing the baton to say, you know, if we could please try to make something like that happen for our community, and to try to work with Small School Districts Association, whatever advocacy we can to make sure that the state at that level is at least sending 10. Yeah, so anyway, it was very moving to see that rural education, we still have, we have barriers in front of our students. It's real.
I'd like to second that. I've mentioned it before. I have a former student who took first place at the state in the science fair, and I think it helped him get into Stanford, where he picked up an engineering degree, and he now leads a research team in battery development for Tesla. So, you know, the long-term effects of that can be enormous. I'd also like to call people's attention. I meant to bring it in, I forgot, but you know, we get that sort of that slick magazine from the School Board Association, and I have to confess I don't always read the whole thing, but I did pick up the fact that they had a very interesting article in there where they did a good overview of what county school boards do. And so I would encourage you to read that. It was really well done, and that's something that has come up at various times. What does the county board do? So it's nice to have that all written out in detail. You can be aware of it or give a copy to someone.
I can bring up the workforce housing one from 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Michelle, I wonder what that would entail, like skipping back and forth, like, I know sometimes we go Southern California, Northern California for the other organizations. Does their whole board live down there? Is that why they have it in Southern California?
It's just traditionally been outside of USC, but this year USC didn't even host it. It was they couldn't find a place to host it, so Cal Lutheran picked it up. They don't know where it's gonna be hosted next year. They don't have a school yet. I've already called UC Davis to see if they'd pick it up.
Sonoma State's got a beautiful
Sonoma
campus.
State has, yeah, like I'm saying, they,
Sonoma
if they
State's got
can,
a beautiful campus, and it's under, I think it's under publicized.
Yeah, but it's gotta be able to give up the campus for a weekend and let
Yeah.
State Science Fair move in and do what it does, and
I just think that's more accessible than like SF. SF's really hard to navigate
Well,
for families.
and Sonoma State is more of a commuter school. Not so many students live on campus, and that makes it easier to open it up.
yeah, interesting, yeah. So anyway, the board is actively looking for where they're gonna host it next year. It almost wasn't in real life, it almost was another virtual fair this year, because they couldn't find a location.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it kinda is.
Even though I'm tired, that's exciting that I didn't think we could move it around, but
Something we could lobby for.
Yeah, because if we only have to drive 3 hours instead of 20.
Yeah.
take it on, Michelle. Take it on.
So-
I'm sorry, were you done?
I'm
Were we
done, yeah, that
was
just
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Priscilla, did you have something to add?
Just my report,
Okay.
my report to close out strong. I attended the same event that Nicole mentioned, UUSD Title VI Indian Education Program. They had a family gathering, which was great. It came from family feedback to provide something direct to students. Usually it's through counselors and other, sometimes there's field trips and stuff. So that came from family feedback. I cannot take credit for that at all. That was staff and a nonprofit. I am not remembering right now, I apologize. They did a great job. I attended as a parent, and, you know, also, that was one of those spaces where I could kind of attend both. students were there, but also was talking to people as a board trustee. Also attended the CTP Day of Providers. It was a beautiful event. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to the last hour, so it's kind of dwindling down, but I encourage others to attend. Next year, I'll be there right at the start with a little bit more advance notice. Let's see what else. I have been researching ACCBE, their trainings, engaging in those. Also found out that they do provide a one-on-one mentorship opportunity as well for new board members, which is great. I'll give more updates later about that. I'm signed up for one of the CSB conferences. I don't have the name here, but working with our wonderful superintendent to coordinate that and our staff to help with that. Also a training, I believe it's for the Brown Act. And then after, let's see, some notifications. Let's see, the Native American graduation ceremony for Ukiah Unified School District is on the 21st. I had the privilege of creating the flyer as part of the parent committee, the parents that sit on that committee. Beautiful event. We'll work with Nicole to hopefully add it to the list of events. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. And I found out actually that our students are invited to that ceremony. So Chris, you should have got an email to make sure that we have all those graduates. And so maybe that's something we can reconsider, you know, contributing to, whether it's funds or, you know, those certificates. So that would be nice. Let's see, what else? So Ukiah Unified School District recently shared with parents, I think it's really important to share here as well, that, there we go, that on Tuesday a few weeks ago, the district was notified that the U.S. Department of Education had canceled the school-based mental health grant effective December 31st, 2025. And in short, the district notified parents that they will do everything in their power to protect those services and are appealing the decision. I have another update. This one up. Recently, the Department of Education sent a response to NIEA, the National Indian Education Association. I'm going to read it here for our board to be aware of, and that it's also on record. I'll provide a copy to Marilyn to hopefully get as part of the minutes as well. So, this is from the Department of Education to the NIEA. Dear Mr. Dropick, thank you for your letter to former Acting Secretary Denise Carter on January 31st, 2025, advocating for local control of American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian education programs. Your letter was referred to the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, and I am pleased to respond. The U.S. Department of Education does not develop curriculum and is committed to ensuring curriculum remains a local decision. In fact, the department is committed to all education decision-making being local by returning education to states and tribes. Further, it is the position of the department that American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian history is not classified as diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, or critical race theory, CRT, and the department will not treat Native history, Native education as DEI or CRT. The United States is a unique political and legal relationship with federally recognized Indian tribes as set forth in the Constitution of the United States, treaties, executive orders, and court decisions. We continue to deliver on all statutory grant programs that support American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian students, and are identifying ways to deliver support while reducing bureaucratic red tape and ensuring parental rights remain a national priority. Education will always be a local responsibility, and we look forward to visiting and consulting with Indian tribes, Alaska Native villages, and Native Hawaiian organizations and their leadership to empower high-quality education for all students. And again, that's from the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education within the U.S. Department of Education. That is all I have for my report.
That's a wonderful letter.
Yeah, thank you.
I was thinking you wrote that for a minute.
I helped. Just
Okay.
kidding. Not this time. Not this time.
Okay, well, you should be proud of it. I'm very excited that we are.
One reason we'll apply that in a lot of ways I believe in our work moving forward. But one thing I did want to mention that I think is important to highlight that I noted on our last notes is oftentimes, and I think Nicole, this was part of one of your reports or one of the agenda items. I believe it was for ethnic studies. Native studies is often clumped under that, and it's not. It's something completely separate that folks sometimes don't understand, and that's why you'll often hear me refer to tribal students and students of color, because they're different communities. And tribal students, there's a federal trust responsibility as sovereign citizens of tribal nations. So, and hopefully some of these reports and updates on a federal level from that federal guidance will help us understand that and be more effective in our work.
Thank you. Okay, what was I saying? Oh, okay, I was just excited that we're joining ACCD as well. And I would like to move on to item 8.1, announcing our next board meeting will be on Monday, June 16th. And I would like to ask for a motion for adjournment.
Before you do, I want to point out it's June 16th and it's in Point Arena. That one's going to be at Point Arena.
Did I
High
say
School.
something?
No, you didn't. I just wanted to
June 16th
remind us.
at Point Arena.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have another one after that. We have 2 board meetings in June. The second one will be here,
Make sure I have that one
but
down.
the June 16th one is scheduled for Point Arena.
Right, I've got Point Arena written down,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
Point Arena High School.
Yeah, hi. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
I spent the night at your house on the 15th of June.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks everybody for a
Thank you
long,
very much.
look where my pen is.